favorite song anyway, and it's the first song that I play for every show because it makes me happy. Let me make sure that I have all my stuff done. Okay, so this is Taste Life Nutrition Radio. We're here streaming live at kuhsdenver.com with the amazing Henry in the back putting everything together for us. And we have today my great friend, my partner in crime, my partner with my clients, you know, same thing. Gabrielle Grandel, who is truly one of my favorite people, but also one of the smartest people that I know, which is what I really like to do, is bring on super smart people because they have really important things to say. And so that's what the show's about, is talking about, you know, nutrition, health, wellness. You know, we want to have some fun, but we want to bring truth to the world. And not that, you know, we know all, but it's really that there's so much confusing information in the world, and we, to the best of our ability, want to kind of, you know, move through that, talk about what is true, with the understanding that everybody is unique. You are different from everybody else. So because one plan, whether it's a diet plan or a meditation plan or a, you know, whatever plan works for your friend or your spouse or whatever the case may be, doesn't mean it's going to work for you, because we all have our own history, our own music. Thanks, Henry. See, I knew I was forgetting something.
Number 1 to 3:30.
Thank you. All right, number 1 to 3:30. See? Yeah?
Little too high on the top.
Okay. Oh, on top.
Right there.
See? Henry's taking care of me because I'm always messing things up. I'm not doing it quite right. You have to turn different speakers on when you have somebody on Zoom. And I'm still on vacation a little bit. So I probably would have forgotten it anyway. It doesn't matter. I always forget something. Anyway, so the whole goal is for us to have fun, but to bring some truth to you. You know, a little bit of common sense, really, because I think that's what health and wellness is some common sense, which tends to be lacking a little bit these days. So, with that being said, we always start the show with gratitude. And what we, you know, I try to start my days with gratitude. I try to go to bed with gratitude. And I think it's an important way, especially in the world that we're living in now, to bring yourself some balance and start to bring balance to those around you, which then spreads. And that's really the goal. So, with that being said, Gabrielle, what are you grateful for?
Well, thank you for the compliment. That was really kind. I'm grateful to work with you and to be here on this show today. And I think, you know, what comes to the top of my mind is just being really great. There's so many things, loved ones and my health, but what comes to my mind today is just having the opportunity to do this for a living, to do this, you know, for my life's work, to share and to be able to learn and grow and help others learn and grow and to feel good. And that's really, I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, it's good to feel good, right? You know, even when in the middle of some craziness, whether it's our own craziness in our head, whether it's in our, you know, whether it's, you know, around us, which is happening to a lot of us, feeling good helps to, I don't know, just kind of brings out a glow, right? And so taking care of yourself and taking care of your mind, you know, your brain, yes, but your mind, your mindset is, I think, you know, one of the most important things we can do, because it's all connected, right? We talk about this all the time, you know, the brain, the mind is all connected to everything else, and everything else is connected to the brain, and everything else is connected to everything else. So, you know,
true.
You know, it's not, you know, we're not, you know, cut up into bits and pieces. We're not just a cardiovascular system. We're not just a, you know, endocrine system. We're not just these things. Everything works together, including our thoughts. And so we're going to get a little bit more into that here in a few minutes. But my turn to be grateful, and I have to say I'm grateful for, wow, so many things, because we just got back from, as I said, Belize, and I'm grateful for the sun. It's been a little bit too much time in the sun. I try not to get so much sun that I peel, and I certainly did because we're much closer to the equator. But you know what? We talk about how important the sun is, and we slather ourselves with things that block the sun, and it's so important to not block the sun. You don't want to get to a point to where you're peeling, but getting in the sun is so important, and it was an amazing feeling. What I should have done is brought just a few pictures to show.
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, I'll post some. I haven't posted any yet. I don't usually post when I'm away from the home because it doesn't really make sense. We have somebody there watching the home, and I don't want there to be any problems. So, but I need to get on that and start posting some pictures because it's truly glorious. I mean, the water is as blue as like the blue in your cactus. It's just phenomenal how gorgeous Belize is. And so I got my conch shell. This is a conch shell. I always try to bring home a little piece of jewelry or artwork or something like that from wherever we go. It's my bracelet. I don't know, can you see it? It's kind of cool. So yeah, it's a cool bracelet because it was a shell, and you can see the crabs on the beach walking around in these shells. That's amazing. So we got in. So I think I'm grateful for the experience is really what I'm saying more than anything, because we got in 10 dives. We got in, island hopping, a little bit of coconut rum, and then, lots of ceviche. The cool thing is there are, for those of you who know or don't know, there's a fish called lionfish, and probably a lot of you know because it's super invasive. And anywhere, I think everywhere, Florida, Belize, all of the Caribbean. I assume it's outside of the Caribbean, but I don't know. But these lionfish are really invasive, and so they don't have a season. Everybody just hunts them all the time because I believe they're destroying the coral reefs. I think that they're a real problem. So anyway, I'm kind of going a little bit long with this, but my brother was hunting lionfish, and we bring them up and have ceviche. We had fresh ceviche almost every day. So 12 days in Belize was a really good rest, and I'm super grateful for that. I'm grateful to have gone with my husband and my brother. We dived together. We had just an amazing time. We met some amazing people. Good stuff. So hopefully we're going back ASAP. So
yeah,
that's
cool that your brother got to come with you.
Yeah, it is, and he's a serious diver. Within I mean, he's got probably 400 dives under his belt, so tons of diving. And so for me being a new diver, I was able to learn from him, and just kind of share that with him a little bit. My dad used to be a diver. He doesn't dive anymore, and I regret not diving with him. And so, yeah, being able to dive, both with my husband and my brother, I'm like, this is the coolest thing. Oh, and I have to say this. Any diver out there is going to know this. And again, it's new to me, so I don't know. But there's a wall dive. If you don't know what a wall dive is, you go to the ocean floor, whatever it is 30 feet or so for us. But then you go over a cliff. And the cliff was maybe, 300 feet down. Crazy. But of course, you don't go that far down because we can't go more than 90 feet. But you're diving along literally this cliff wall, right? And it is, there were nurse sharks all around us. There were the bluefish and the yellowfish and the queen moray eels, and there was the spotted eagle rays, just flying around. They look like they're flying to me. It was truly phenomenal. The best dive that I've done to date. But we got in 10. I think that was my 5th dive, so it was right in the middle. And anyway, just it's a different world. You see diving on TV, and then you go, holy smokes, I'm in it now. So anyway, I'm so excited because I'm such a newbie at it. But I recommend anybody who just loves the world that we live in to experience it, because it's beyond words. It really is. It's truly phenomenal.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. It was awesome. So I should probably get into what we're going to talk about today instead of reminiscing and wishing I was back in Belize. But So today we
Or
want
not to. Or not to stay in that headspace.
I know.
Yeah.
So we want to, we call the show, Living with Toxins. And the thing is, we're surrounded by toxins. There are things that we can control and things that we can't control, right? And so the show is not about fretting, but it's about learning what it is that we can do to help to, as much as possible, eliminate those toxins that we have the ability to control. And so, Gabrielle is really well versed in this area. We talk about this stuff a lot. And so we thought, well, we should talk about it to everybody else too. Before we dig in, I want to get a quick, you've been on the show before, and so some of you might have seen Gabrielle before, but I want you to talk a little bit about, who you are, where you came from, why you're here, what motivates you, and then we'll move into toxins.
Okay. Well, I'm a functional nutritionist as well, and I have some different certifications in coaching and a few other areas of expertise. I like to kind of focus on the gut and the brain. Those are kind of my jam. And I work with Nikki and some other different providers in the coaching role to help their clients out with, any hurdles that they're coming into contact with their program, help to keep them accountable, help bring in that kind of mind-body piece. And so it really, it motivates me. I think there's a lot of different things that motivate me in terms of doing this kind of work. I really like the science. I really like the biochemistry. I like learning and talking to people about the food and how it really can influence us for the better and the positive. All the colors, all the tastes. I like creating things and talking to people about the connection. I think it's such a beautiful thing how it can be so many things in one. And I think that I really like to know why. I've learned about myself that I question a lot of different things. The narrative and wanting to know people more and curious about things. And so functional medicine is all about figuring out why something's happening and not just what is happening, but why, and really digging in. And so it motivates me to help people put those pieces together and to know how much power they have, through their choices, that they can really feel good. And the more that I learn, the more it helps me and my loved ones as well. So it's kind of a win-win, on all sides, I feel like.
Yeah. I totally agree. And, one of the great things about Gabrielle and, her work is she is curious. But that's what it takes, I think, in this world of functional medicine, is to be curious. And when you said, you want to ask why, well, what I know about Gabrielle is she asks why about everything, which is good. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
It's probably a little annoying sometimes.
No, I think that's what we're supposed to do. But that's what we do as practitioners, is ask the question why. So if somebody comes to us who is not feeling well, who's suffering from, you name it, autoimmune disease, brain fog, fatigue, gut pain, bloating, whatever the case may be, then asking why is the key to it. And this is what I talk to my clients about every day, is just because you have a symptom, you have to ask why. Always ask why, because that's going to help you dig deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's what we do. But it helps open them up to the understanding that if you have food sensitivities, it's not just because you have food sensitivities. Ask why, right? You got to keep asking.
It's not the
why.
food usually. Yeah.
Right, exactly. There's something else going on. So anyway, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful for the work that you do and for being a partner with me. My clients absolutely love Gabrielle, and so do I. So
I love you too.
So it's good. It's a lot of fun. And so we want to kind of get into one of the things that we sort of started talking about a little bit a few minutes ago when we talk about toxins, it's not just environmental toxins. It's not just food toxins, you know, and things like that. One of the things that I think can be most toxic are our own thoughts. And so we want to hit on that first because, you know, we really sometimes need to just get out of our head, right? We need to stop with whether it's fear, anger, self-deprecation. You know, I can't believe that I did that. I'm so stupid. I can't believe I can't do that. Why can't I do everything? Why can't I complete my full list? Why can't all of these things? And, you know, kind of getting out of your head and saying everything has its time, right? And everything has its place. You have to be motivated to move forward in life and in whatever it is that your goals are. But beating yourself up is never going to help anyone, and it will literally create disease, right? You may be healthy in every way, but if you're not healthy in your head, you still might develop an autoimmune condition. You might develop cancer. You might develop, you know, any kind of inflammatory condition because stress and these negative self-talk is inflammatory. Yeah. So one of the things that Gabrielle does is she works with people day to day, you know, day in and day out, and helps with the thoughts. And I think it's, even when it comes to food, I have clients who, you know, one came to me, she said, you know, I'm not doing very well with the food, but I had this, and this that I've done well. I'm like, perfect. All right. Not everybody's perfect. You're doing the things that you need to be doing, right? And so you experience that because you work with people day in and day out and help them get out of that negative mindset, even if they're like, I can't believe I did this wrong, because it happens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really trying to prioritize positivity.
Yeah.
You know, in my own life, and then just in of course in anybody else's life that I can touch. But yeah, one of the things I was thinking about is just putting a smile on your face, right?
Yeah.
No matter what is happening. I'm seriously, you know, if you've never tried it, if you're down, really just smiling and seeing how instantly you kind of feel a little bit more of a peace.
Yeah.
And like you were talking about, just practicing gratitude and things like that, things that shift your mind and your spirit into all the things that are going well. Right. Because there is always something that's going well. And so encouraging people, you know, to see that instead of, like you were saying, so many of us have the tendency to get hung up on the things that we didn't accomplish, right? So much easier to believe those negative things than the positive ones,
right?
I think sometimes.
Wasn't it you? Now I'm going to throw this out there because I'm sure it was you who said, if you're mad, laugh really hard. So what was that?
Yeah, that was last time we were talking. We were talking about how if something's really hard, like sad or angry, or you're just in a funk, or you feel, you know, some kind of way about something that happened, like you lost your job or your boyfriend broke up with you or whatever, you know, that you want to say like, oh, I just lost my job.
See, it automatically just makes you laugh, right?
It just makes you laugh, right? And you kind of giggle afterwards, and you're like, that's kind of silly, you know. But you get out of your own way, and you know, you just start to shift that consciousness into something that's like, well, you know, but look around. There's so many great things that are happening. Like I'm alive, and I have opportunities to do things today, and I have friends, and I have loved ones, and you know, I have a roof over my head, and you know, just all these types of things.
Right,
so
right.
Yeah, but we got to remind ourselves, and sometimes it's good to have little notes or little or songs you play or things you wear or things you do that, you know, that will help, you know, nourish that.
Yeah. My song is Three Little Birds, like in the beginning of the show. It's just that song just makes me happy. I'm like, and I think that comes from when we moved. My husband and I moved to Colorado. It was difficult. It was a different world. The work environment was very different. The economic environment was very different from Dallas. And it was a difficult time. And there was one day, you know, just lots of stress. And when you have that stress, it's hard on a relationship. And the relationship was always fine, but it can be hard. And I was driving and the song came on, and you know, you hear it a million times, but at that point, it touched me so deeply. I'm like, in my mind, it was a God thing. It was like, everything's going to be all right. And so I have it in my office, and I have it in my head, and now I have it on the show, and I listen to it all the time. It's my favorite Pandora station is Three Little Bird Station because it's all happy stuff. But that song, every time I hear it, I'm like, it's going to be fine. And thank you, God, for the reminder, you know.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, those
good.
things, those things. And then I don't do this, but I think about a lot, is the laughing thing, because that just cracks me up every time.
You gotta try it. Yeah, I don't do it as much as I could.
All right, cool. Real quick break before we move on into some of the deeper stuff. Well, I mean, that's pretty deep, but got to take a quick break and talk about Rightful. So Rightful is a company, you've heard me talk about them every time we're on their show. They're a great sponsor, but you know, Rightful is a pain management supplement, and the company is a new company, newer, but it's a great supplement to help with whatever your pain is, and so it works so well that it's being sold now into pain management clinics. And so I love this because you're kind of bringing allopathic medicine and natural medicine together, and it works well. It takes time, so it's not an immediate like ibuprofen fix, but you know, give it for some people a week, maybe it's a month, whatever it is. It works really, really well. But I would like to caution you, always know what the pain's from. You don't want to cover it up. You always want to know what the pain's from. Try to eliminate the pain naturally with whatever means. But this is a great product for helping with things like, and I say this a lot, you know, my husband has a fused ankle. There's pain there. There's nothing that can be done nutritionally for a fused ankle. So a great product for him. So anyway, it's a turmeric or a see, I do this. Curcumin. Yes, I know. I saw your lips. I'm like, curcumin, thank you. It's a curcumin-based product, and they have adaptogens, and there's a little bit of CBD. So there's a morning wake up, let's get going supplement, and then there's a evening time to go to sleep supplement, and it's just a great product. I love it to pieces. So you can go to rightful.com, put in TLN20 for a really great discount. So check it out. It's a good company. And we're going to move on to what can be a little more difficult. I don't know if it's difficult to talk about. It's just not always something that we can control. So we talk about environmental toxicities. And those can be, you know, things that are in the air and in the ground and in our food. And there's so much. And we're truly inundated by these environmental toxins. And one of the things that I think about that's so heartbreaking for me is, you know, you think about these toxins that are in the cities, because it's true, you know, we've got factories and, you know, all of these things. We have a Purina plant here, and if you know me at all, you know that I don't do kibble for dogs, but we have a Purina plant here. You can smell Purina dog food all over the city. It's disgusting. I hate it. And so I don't really know how toxic that is. It just makes me mad. So, but anyway, you know, we have factories, and we have these things that can create toxicities in our environment. But my husband's from Kansas, and you drive to Kansas, you think it's wide open, you have farms, and it's beautiful, and the sky is clear. But what are they doing in all of these farms in Kansas? Right? They're putting pesticides and herbicides and all of these chemicals, these nasty petroleum-based fertilizers. I don't know how you can call that a fertilizer, but it is. In the ground and in the air and on the food. It's awful, and it breaks my heart because there are a lot of really sick farmers due to these chemical toxicants that are placed on our food, and of course it's sent to us, and we eat it if we're not careful. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So it goes back to, there are things that we can control in, sorry, I thought my phone was turned off. There are things that we can control in our environment, and it's not necessarily the air outside, but we can control the air in the home, and the stuff that we put in the home. We can control the stuff that we put on our body and the stuff that we put in our body. And I think we want to talk a little bit about those things that are in the home, you know, furniture, bedding, you know, cleaning products, that kind of thing. And so these toxins do a lot of terrible things to us. And I know that you had talked a little bit earlier about, you know, like bedding. Do you want to jump into that real quick and talk about, because we don't
Sure.
think about bedding. We think, you know, we're just going to go sleep on it. How can it be a problem? And it can be a huge problem.
Right. Yeah. And if you think about it too, you know, you spend so much time in bed, you know, anywhere from 6 to 9 or 10 hours, depending on how much you sleep, right?
Yeah.
So it's really something critical. And, you know, especially also thinking about babies and children and their bedding. But anyway, so yeah, it's, you know, it's really unfortunate that that the materials that are used to create these mattresses and pillows and things like that, you know, are full of those petrochemicals, right? Like, so it's polyurethane is the main ingredient that makes up kind of the foam in the mattresses, which is a petrochemical derived you know, substance. And it's really, really toxic. Actually, Tempur-Pedic is one of the worst ones because of the amount of the memory foam and things that are in there.
Yeah.
So, you know, so they're always off gassing, right? And if like, and same thing with furniture and stuff like that. When you unwrap them or get them home from wherever you got them, they're, you know, that smell, that's the volatile organic chemicals, you know, or compounds that are coming off of that. And so, you know, and the other thing too to remember is that our movement and temperature affects those molecules. So, you know, and how much they're actually, you know, emitting, right? And so, so that's something to think about too. It's all about the bioaccumulation, right? So over time, how does this stuff add up in our system?
Yeah.
Right. And there's really not a lot that that we can do once it's in there, other than open things, you know, open your windows, and we're going to talk about things like air purifiers and things like that. But so that's why you want to, you know, you want to focus on getting these products in your home that are not so toxic, and that means polyurethane free. And I have a couple of things that I wanted to share when you're looking at mattresses and you're looking at investing in that. Some of the certifications that you want to look for. One of the other things that's on all of the furniture and cribs and mattresses and stuff is flame retardants. I think you kind of briefly mentioned that earlier, but you know, so flame retardants are on all of this stuff, and again, you know, something like wool would work in the same way, but would have much less. Wouldn't have all that toxic exposure.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk about a few things to look at when it comes to that. I have a couple of notes. So, so you want to look for what's called GOTS certified, GOTS, which is the Global Organic Texture Standard. And then another certification to look for is called GOLS. If you are going to get a latex type of mattress, so there's either cotton or latex or hybrids, and so the GOLS is the Global Organic Latex Standard, and when you get latex, the other cool thing about that is they're mold resistant, so that's another kind of benefit to that, but just like the industry is sneaky with a lot of different things, just you got to be careful that whatever you get, that it's polyurethane free, because sometimes they'll mix the latex and the polyurethane, or, you know, there's just a lot of greenwashing kind of going on. But so goals and GOTS, and then you also want a third party certification, ideally something like Green Guard, somebody that has a really stringent profile that they're actually testing, you know, these materials to see what's going on, and they're meeting their criteria. Because unfortunately, you know, what is considered legally, you know, the legal standards don't equal safety when it comes to like the Environmental Protection Agency, for example, which is a government agency that's, supposed to be monitoring all of this stuff and, putting these guidelines in place in a lot of cases. There's many companies out there that don't meet these qualifications or these standards, and even if they do meet the level, it's still not technically safe according to the Environmental Working Group, which is a nonprofit coalition that everybody should know about, and we're going to talk a little bit more about them later. But Environmental Working Group does really good work, and the point being on all of this is that we can't always go by what they allow to be in our environment, right? That's not what is best for our health. Right. And so let's see if I wanted to talk about anything else with that. I think those were just some of the things to think about. Oh, I do have a couple of beds that are better beds should you want to invest in that. So these are things to kind of search out, but a couple names to look at were EcoCloud, Avocado, which has done a big, marketing push. You probably might have heard of them, Avocado mattress.
Yep.
Plush, and then one called Brentwood Home. And all of these meet those criteria that we were just talking about. Awesome. It's, so if you wonder sometimes maybe why you can't sleep, or if you have asthma or, respiratory things or skin stuff or any of that stuff, don't look outside of your home. Start with what you're doing every day for a good portion of your day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's a really good point. And it's really scary in my mind to think of the chemicals that consistently off gas from laying in bed. And like you said,
right.
Your heat and the movement just makes it off gas more and more and more. It's you wonder why we have such a problem with disease, and it's not just our beds, but it's everything, because it's our furniture and our rugs and our carpet and clothes. Kids' clothing has these fire retardants on them.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart to think about what it is that we do to ourselves, and then think about during pregnancy, or even for a man. You've got to have both of those, both sperm and egg, to come together. You've got a toxic man, you're going to have toxic sperm, but then your child and your pets, and it's just, these are the things that we do have control of, and it makes it a little bit difficult because there's research to be done, but that's what it takes, and that's what we have to do. But that's also why we do this, and you come to the table with examples of good quality, because that takes the research out of it for a lot of people. You will still want to do your own research, but it helps give guidance, which is what we really want to do here. So it's hard.
I wanted to mention a few other things I've left out that I think are also important when it comes to, like I talked a lot about mattresses, but the pillow, thinking about what kind of pillow you have too. Like Avocado makes a good pillow, and then your sheets. Are you getting 100% organic cotton sheets, or are you getting something else? That probably was a cotton crop, probably a genetically modified cotton crop that was covered with glyphosate and whoever knows what else. And, and so we're not trying to be alarmists here, but it's just trying to bring to you what not a lot of people are talking about. And we wonder, about cancer, and we wonder about the rise of all of these, health concerns. We have to do our own homework, and we have to take responsibility for ourselves, because these for-profit industries, including the government and these healthcare agencies and these people that make these mattresses and et cetera, they're not, their goal is to make profit. It is not to benefit our health. Mm-hmm. So we have to take responsibility, and that's just like you said, that's why we do this, is to try and not be doomsday, kind of downer people all the time, like, look what's going on, but we just want you to be aware, so then you can make informed choices.
Well, and that's it. They have every right to want to make a profit, and they have every right to create whatever product they want to create, but we have every right to not purchase a product that's going to be damaging to our health, right? And
Right.
so it's you can't. I mean, I get frustrated with big government, big pharma, big ag, big food, all of these things. I get really frustrated because I have a hard time understanding why the health of the population doesn't matter. But it's their right. We live in a free country. At least today we do. So we have every right to speak with our pocketbook. And, that's I think that's kind of, a lot of what people are starting to do, right? If you don't believe in what somebody is doing or what a company is doing, you don't purchase from them. I've been doing that a lot lately. So, we have every right, and I think that we should exercise that right. So consider that, and another great, so the cotton, 100% cotton, but I love organic bamboo as well. Bamboo is great for so much. I was thinking when we were in Belize, there's bamboo everywhere, and I'm like, we could move to Belize and grow bamboo because you can make anything out of bamboo almost.
Be a good side gig.
Yeah, right. So getting into some other things, one of the things, there are things like, and I just kind of want to briefly go over these. We don't have a lot of time to go into detail, but things that, we hear about are the BPA, the phthalates, and there are, the glycol ethers, organophosphates. These are all toxins that are in our food, in our plastic, in our body care, in our makeup, in our hair care, in, what am I missing? Water, definitely water. All of these things are, at least, they're one of the many things that they do that is directly negatively impacting our health is they're hormone disruptors, they're endocrine disruptors. And so we have what's called xenoestrogens, and we also have metalloestrogens. And what does that mean? So that means that they are estrogen mimickers. So xenoestrogens being chemicals that mimic estrogens, metalloestrogens being metals, heavy metals that mimic estrogens. We have them in the body. They bind to estrogen receptor sites, which is, we all have them, both men and women have estrogen receptor sites, and they bind really, really hard. That's not the right word, but they don't let go. So it doesn't allow our own natural estrogen to do its job. And so it creates these massive hormonal imbalances. Fertility rates have dropped so incredibly far. It's amazing. I did not bring that stat. Now I wish I had, because I just thought about it. But there's a stat that just shows fertility rates from, I don't know if it was the 50s or the 80s, but it's tanked, like in half. It's incredible what we're seeing as far as fertility, and then as far as the inability to, just to conceive, birth defects, all of these things. I have my notes here, and I just wish I could read it all to you, but all of them talk about these incredible birth defects and decreasing thyroid function, and decreasing endocrine function, and decreasing fertility, and increasing things like Alzheimer's, and increasing cardiovascular disease. I mean, it's all inflammatory, and the inflammation is going to create disease, whether it's sooner or later. It's going to happen. And so understanding that, when you smell, you have your laundry detergent that smells really good, right? Which I hate, because I hate the chemical smells. They make me sick. It's just disgusting. But you smell them. You're not only just smelling it when you're putting it in the laundry. You smell it when you take your clothes out, you put your clothes on. You smell it in your sheets when you go to bed. It is inundating your body with these toxicants. And just because you can smell them doesn't mean that they're not then going in your body and sitting in your body. Something that I want to hit on real quick, that I think is important, is, as I was doing research, I was talking, Gabrielle, with you a little bit about this earlier. I was looking into this a little bit, and I read this blog or this article where there was an expert in environmental toxins, talking to somebody. Anyway, she was, talking about the things that we can do to help to eliminate these toxins. There's a lot of what we're talking about now, but one of her comments in it, and it really sort of blew my mind a little bit, but people say this, and so that's why, one of the reasons why I want to address it, but is that doing a detox, a good detox, people call detoxes that aren't, but doing a real good healthy detox that allows your body and your liver to function by pulling out these toxins that sit in our tissues and pulling them out of the body. She said that none of them work, and then it doesn't matter, and that the liver has a job and it does its job no matter what. So yeah, let's think about that a little bit, and let's think about if you're not giving your body the nutrients that it needs, because you have two, really quickly get into this, but you've got two phases of liver detoxification, and basically from phase 1 to phase 2, it turns fat-soluble toxins into a water-soluble toxin, so it can be eliminated through the urine. Fat-soluble can't be eliminated. And so if you don't have the proper nutrients, because there are proper nutrients for each phase in order to allow for that detoxification to happen, then the detoxification is not going to happen if you're nutrient deficient, or if you have certain genetic polymorphisms, which is, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but polymorphism, simply put, it's a mutation, but it's not always a mutation. It just helps you to understand it a little bit. If you don't have the polymorphisms that help you to utilize B12 or folate or gosh, my words, this happens to me all the time. This is frustrating. Antioxidant, my antioxidant, glutathione, which is your master antioxidant. We have these polymorphisms that can create a problem in pathways where these nutrients don't function properly and the pathways don't function properly. If the pathways are not functioning properly, and we can see this. I mean, this isn't just, just thrown out there. I mean, we have tests where we can see this stuff. If you have these specific polymorphisms, you're not going to detoxify properly. I mean, there's a specific one for detoxifying pesticides and herbicides.
Mine is broken.
Yeah, right.
Mine is off.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. Yeah, so, we have those. And I know that you experience this. We do detoxes regularly. I personally do them probably quarterly, but I do them with my clients regularly. You do them with me and with your clients and my clients regularly. And the changes that we see in people are truly phenomenal. So I'm not trying to talk over you. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, but I just think it's so important to understand that it's real.
Yeah, no, I don't have, you weren't talking over me. I wanted to emphasize, right, like that it's not, yes, ideally our body would be doing everything at 100%, but we live in a world that, like we've been talking about today, that puts us at a deficit, so these nutrients that we get from our food and supplements and stuff are working kind of on overtime, and ideally, yeah, the liver would do everything, to the best potential, but if it doesn't have what it needs, or it's being bombarded way too often, or genetically we're set up where we don't do it real well, we need extra support, then we need to take that into consideration. And also people's gut health and sensitivities to other things, and there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, I think that's kind of irresponsible to say that these, looking at it this way through food and lifestyle cleanses and things isn't valuable.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I agree that it's irresponsible. It's frustrating because, these are things that I think in our world we hear a lot, when there's the belief that the body's just going to function as it's going to function. And, to give an example, it's not necessarily a toxicity example. Actually, it might be. But my mom being diagnosed with Hashimoto's, it took a while, and I just kept pushing, you have to get these tests, you have to get these tests. And finally, like, oh, yeah, you have Hashimoto's. And I was like, duh. But she went to her endocrinologist, and her endocrinologist told her food makes no difference. I think she told him that I was a nutritionist and we're working on her and that kind of thing. And he said to her, food has nothing to do with your thyroid, and we're going to put you on thyroid medication until your thyroid gives out, and then we'll take it out. I was like, what?
It's pretty limited.
Yeah, and these are smart people. I mean, to be an endocrinologist, that's a lot of training. To be any kind of physician, it's a lot of training. But to be so close-minded about the body and the biochemistry and how everything that we do in our own world affects who we are. It's just well, like you said, it's limited. That was the perfect description of it. Very close-minded and very sad.
Well, it takes the power away from the client, like the power away from your mom, or you know, the power from us, and puts it where it doesn't need to be. Like we have so much power, and we can take responsibility, and we can you know, do these things, and and not totally rely on someone else to tell us what their opinion of things are. Right? Like anyway, I agree that a lot of people are very, very intelligent and not necessarily keeping an open mind about what all the contributing factors.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Go ahead. Yeah, and so that's another, you know, just coming back to part of why we're doing this show today is because there are things that you can do every day, you know, to help yourself to feel the best and to not have to experience, you know, a lot of these symptoms. Ideally. Yeah, you know, we're dealing in a world, we're living in a world where people are becoming more and more sensitive to all of the chemicals that are out there. You know, there's now been labeled the condition, you know, multiple chemical sensitivity, because, you know, there are certain people, and I believe it is, as you said, sort of it's a genetic intolerance. So it's not true genetic, it's more epigenetic intolerance, where you just are set up to where your body just gets to a point and then it becomes, you know, the immune system just goes haywire and upregulated, and people become sensitive to everything, you know, to, you know, dry cleaning chemicals, which are chemicals and they're terrible, so stay away from those. But to, you know, any toxicants that they come in contact with, to, you know, they just become sicker and sicker and sicker, and the symptoms are all over the place, and they're really, really difficult, chronically ill people, and they go to their primary care or even to a specialist. They're like, I don't know what to do with you, because their system is so out of whack. And so it's interesting, you know, even you know, mold toxicity can, you know, if you are exposed to mold, you know, that in and of itself, for those who are susceptible, can start to create that multiple chemical
sensitivity.
Yes, thank you. And or vice versa, if you have it and then you are exposed to mold or to Lyme or any of those things, it can really start to create a huge problem, and it's increasing in the incidences are just getting, you know, higher and higher, and it's scary because we're just inundated by so much, and it's frustrating.
It is, and like you said, you know, and how do we fight against it, or how do we control it? You know, voting with our dollars, educating one another, you know, and things like what we're talking about today. Simply opening your windows, you know, is a good move, right? Like letting things circulate. You may not have all the funds to buy these mattresses right now, or you may not, you know, have the funds to buy an air purifier or something at the moment, but you can know about this stuff and then start saving for it and invest in it. And there are, you know, things that you can do that are cost effective, and it all adds up, and it all makes a difference. And it's again, it's, you know, a lot of the studies and a lot of things haven't been done on long-term effects or cumulative, you know, what accumulates in our system over time, you know. So we're inundated, but we all but we have a lot of things that we can do to counter that. And one of the things is water, right? Like drinking clean water. And again, we all just assume like, well, it's probably okay, right? If it's coming out of the tap, and I don't know. I mean, I think we all kind of realize it's probably not the cleanest, but we might not realize how detrimental it can be. And so I want everybody to go to ewg.org/tapwater/. And when you get to that page, you type in your zip code, and then there's a section that says view, I think, utility. And when you click on that button, there's like 15, I believe, different types of chemicals. And what it shows you is what's going on in your zip code. What's the EWG's guideline for safety? How many parts per billion versus how much is actually in there? And then it shows you, is this like 75% more, or 75 times more, 300 times more, whatever it might be. And so I don't know if anybody's seen that movie Erin Brockovich that came out several years ago. She was really big into the figuring out that the water was contaminated, and one of those contaminants is still in our water. It's called hexavalent chromium, and you can see it on the EWG list. And I think in my area, if I'm remembering correctly, I want to say it was like 85 times more the limit. In my mom's zip code, arsenic was 250 times the standard. And so this is what's going on in our tap water. This is what we're showering in, all these things, and so want you to be aware, want you to go and look to see what's going on in your area, and then purchase a water filtration system. And there's different levels of these things. I'm going to give you a couple of options that I think are tried and true. So everybody knows about Brita, and that's fairly inexpensive. It doesn't filter out a ton of things. It doesn't filter out fluoride, which is another big,
it's a big one.
Problem.
I think it's
important
water to filter out fluoride.
Yeah, fluoride. We've been told for a long time by the American Dental Association that we need that, right? But in actuality, it's really harmful, and it doesn't really do a lot for our oral health or dental health. Right. And I can give you some resources on that. But so you know what to look for, and you can start looking for something that has a fluoride filter. Ideally, Brita doesn't have that, but it is going to at least filter out some of the pesticides and hormones and medicines and crazy heavy metals and all this craziness that's in our water. A couple other step up from that is something called ProPure G 2.0. This is also another pitcher like a Brita, but it does filter fluoride. And it's pretty cost effective. The only problem with it is it has a plastic reservoir, and we know that plastics are estrogen mimickers, and so that's a little bit of a downside. But then the other ones are Berkey, which a lot of people have probably heard of, and then AquaTrue. And I think those are kind of both top of the line, filter out the most toxicants in the water, including getting the one with the fluoride filter.
Right.
And then you just use your tap water and you stream it through the reverse osmosis, and you get some clean water. We're made up of so much water, right? Water is life, and so we've got to look into that. And at least you can also look at your area on the EWG, and if it's, say, arsenic, for example, you can make sure that whatever filter you get filters out that particular contaminant that's really high in your neighborhood. And then there's also what's called ProPure. That same company makes a shower head, and so does Berkey, that you could put on your shower to filter out the fluoride and the chloride and the microbes. And I mean, it's kind of insane what we allow in our environment.
Yeah. And
that just goes to show, and I'm not going to harp on this a lot again, but just goes to show you just no one's looking out for you as much as you're going to look out for you. And so you gotta dig into this, and don't assume that all these people have your best interest in mind.
Yeah, it's true. I think a couple of things that I want to hit on before we finish up is talking about things like, well, I know there are two things. I've got 5 minutes. I'm like, how much can we get in? So talking about water, I want to talk about our oceans. We were in the most beautiful country with the most beautiful water, and guess what was washing up onto the shoreline?
Masks.
Well, I did not see any masks, which I see those everywhere, and it makes me crazy. But we saw everything washing up onto the shoreline.
Trash,
Everything.
yeah, all kinds of stuff.
It was awful. So you've got all of the seaweed, and then you've got all of this trash. So I saw more single shoes, goggles, and what I know is it's not just from that area. It's probably from all over the world. We went to the bottom of the ocean and came up with a trash bag that somebody had used for a raincoat. You could see the neck was cut out of it, right? It boggles my mind. And the problem is, it's there's the stuff we can see and there's the stuff that we can't see, and it's damaging our oceans and it's damaging our fish, which is damaging us because we're eating these fish that are high in toxins. You've got tuna and these larger fish, shark, that are really high in mercury, and then we go and eat them. And we talk about going, you got to have your omega-3 fatty acids because it helps. It helps with your inflammatory processes and your anti-inflammatory processes. But if it's full of mercury and toxic chemicals, what do you do? And so, I mean, yes, you can take the supplements, but we really want you to eat food. And that's the hard thing about living in the world that we live in now is we've got all of these healthy things that now are becoming unhealthy, and it's frustrating. The other thing that we have talked about before a couple of times is this world that we live in now and the toxins that we put on our skin because we think that we have to be fully antibacterialized and fully antiviralized and all of these things. There's a
super sanitized.
Super sanitized, the new words of the day. Sorry, I'm feeling short. I have to sit on my feet. I would sit on my feet anyway. But, we're putting this stuff, I go to the gym and we have to spray everything down constantly. And I know that they say that's what you're supposed to do anyway. But, it's one thing if it's alcohol. You've got these chemicals, the triclosan and all of these chemicals that are in the antibacterial soaps, in your hand sanitizers and all of these things that are incredibly toxic. So they've got the chemicals in them, but what are they doing? If they kill the bugs on top of your skin, what are they going to do? They're going to kill the bugs inside your body. They're going to mess up your microbiome. I have a lot of fear, actually. I mean, I shouldn't say a lot of fear. I try not to have a lot of fear, but I think about this. I think about it all the time, about what's going to happen next year, the following year, 10 years down the road with all of these destroyed microbiomes because people don't realize they should be taking probiotics. Wow. Should be taking probiotics and eating fermented foods along with their, while they're doing all of this sanitizing. What's going to happen? How sick are we going to be? How destroyed is our immune system going to be because we've destroyed our microbiome and totally just, created this environment inside our gut where we have the ability for pathogenic and opportunistic bacteria, other viruses, all of those things to start to flourish?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, I think one of the ways that we will prevent that from happening is eating organic and not eating GMO foods that are covered in these pesticides that completely disrupt the microbiome too. And as nutritionists, we have to say something about that before we get off the show.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So I know we had a lot to cover, but I wanted to get that in, and obviously we don't have time to go into it. We have in the past, and we can certainly do it again in the future. But I want to tell you guys about a couple of websites to look at: the non-GMOproject.org, organicconsumers.org, and then what's called responsibletechnology.org. And these are all really good sites helping you learn more, and EWG.org, about genetically modified organisms, what they are, why they're a problem, and how to avoid them. And one of the easiest ways to avoid them is to eat more whole foods and to eat them organic and local.
Yeah.
So that is really something that we all do every day is eat and drink and breathe, and so we wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of all of these things, and you can just start taking steps because it all adds up. steps in the right direction adds up to good things, and then steps where we're not paying attention to the accumulation can lead to problems, you know?
Yep.
So so let's all start paying attention and doing things that we can do, because we can all do something, right?
Yeah.
And we are all doing something currently too. So like we talked about in the beginning, what is it that you're doing well, and give yourself some grace, but congratulate yourself on the things that you are doing, and that you're even listening to this show to try to learn more about what you can do.
Yeah, yeah. And it's true. It can be overwhelming if we let it be. It truly can. I think we know a fair amount of stuff because we talk about it all the time. But there's still so much more for the two of us to learn, for everybody to learn. So you take it with baby steps. You enjoy the ride. You enjoy the education, the knowledge, the learning, and then the teaching and the sharing, because that's what it's about too. Is once you have the knowledge, whatever knowledge that is you teach it, you share it, and that's how we create the place that we want to be, the positive, the happy, the healthy, the good. And now I know I'm sounding a little bit kind of crazy. Well, that sounds very romanticized, but it truly is. It starts with us. It starts with me doing my part, being accountable and doing my research and paying attention and taking baby steps. And then it starts with Gabrielle, and then it starts with each and every one of you. So have grace with yourself, have grace with your friends and family, have grace with the people you don't know who may think differently than you do. Because, different thoughts, different thinking is how the world goes round. All right, so Gabrielle, we are running late, but that's okay. Where can you be found?
So you can actually find me on my new website, GabrielleGrandel.com. She did it. And you can also call 972-930-0260. I do free 15, 20-minute phone consultations to check in on how you're doing and see if it would be a good match to work together and talk about how I work. And I'm working on getting my email logged in on the website. So right now you can email me at gabrielle@livingwelldallas.com to be sure that I get it, but in the future on my website there'll be a link. I encourage you to check it out.
Awesome, awesome. Forward movement in business, yay.
That's right.
Little entrepreneurs are fun. I love women entrepreneurs. I love all entrepreneurs, but anyway, all good stuff. I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so I'm Taste Life Nutrition everywhere. So Nikki Burnett, Taste Life Nutrition's the website. It's all the social media. It's everything. So on the website, though, you can, there's a link, or not a link, there's a button where you can take an assessment. It's a pretty quick assessment. It's probably 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, I don't know. But it comes straight to me, not to anybody else, comes straight to me. And unless I'm in Belize, then I had somebody looking over it for me. But and fill that out. I'll reach out to you. We can talk about what's going on and see if there are things that we can do to help. So thank you so much. I missed all of you a couple of weeks ago, but I appreciate you being here. And Gabrielle, thank you again for being so great and joining us. If you have questions, comment in the link. I know this is on Facebook Live, but it's also on, all over KUHS Denver. So we're here to help guide, to answer questions, to learn. We are, eternal learners. So that's what we want as well. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye, guys.